All right. Dearest listeners,
Book babes and book bros.
welcome to Book Babble. I'm Rachel,
And I'm Tanya, and we're the Whitlet Women, your hosts for today.
and today we have a special guest star. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Maddie Rose Andry.
Hi, Maddie. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your books too before we get into the madness of the 5 minutes?
Absolutely. So, I am the creator and author of the Cursed and Fated Vampire series. Right now, book one, Mortal End, and book two, Chaos Resurrected, are out. And it's all based on the premise of what if vampires had a soul? And yeah, we cross into it's new vampire lore, which I absolutely love. And I mingle in mythology, and we have demonic gods and the fates and deities. And so, yeah, it's I have a literature degree, and I am a huge fan of classic literature. So I like to weave it all in there. So it does fall into epic world building, but it is gothic romance. And so we have a lot of, fun little things for everybody to get into.
Yeah, I think there's something in your books for literally everyone. So you did a great job of combining so many different things. But we are here for our 5 minutes. So are you ready to babble, Maddie?
I am ready to babble. Let's do this.
All right,
I'm
I
prone
will
to
start.
talk really fast, so we might get a
Let's
lot covered.
go. Okay. Awesome. 5 minutes on the clock.
All right. So
Okay.
you kind of said already that you are big on literature and classical literature. What inspired these? Were there any things that inspired you or motivated you to write these?
Okay, so what inspired to write me these? Well, I am a huge vampire fan, and it doesn't have to be just in the written words. So I'm a big Buffy fan, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer was I'm a huge junkie. Like I've
My
probably
dog is
watched
named
the
Buffy. Yes,
so
I love it.
we're gonna be besties. I would say Buffy is my comfort food. So if I've had a bad day, like I just binge watch some Buffy. I don't actually eat it, but I do binge watch it. And I think I just absolutely in college, I really did a deep dive into Gothic literature. And what I love about Gothic literature, a little bit of fun fact about me is I actually work in the medical field. And so I've been in the medical field for 25 years, and I specialize in trauma recovery. And so, what I love about Gothic, and most people don't know, is that the Gothic literature, when it really came to light, with like Bram Stoker's and Mary Shelley's Frankenstein and Jekyll and Hyde. Jekyll and Hyde's great because it talks about like this darker persona that's not polite for public society, and then the persona that we present to the world, right? When that really started coming to light, people started getting a lot more comfortable with these darker, heavier emotions that we never really let anybody see, and that actually gave birth to psychiatric medicine. And so, and you know, it's kind of crazy. And so what I love about what I do is for a living, I deal with some of the darker, heavier emotions that people have been through with trauma. And so I've always been fascinated. I got my literature degree after I was already working in the medical world. And so I loved kind of weaving my two worlds together of helping people kind of overcome some of their heavier topics of what they've been through with trauma with just our imagination, because our imagination has the ability, so many of us read to escape it, to whatever it is that we're escaping from, whether it's just the heaviness of the day or something that we've been through. I had myself as a child escaped into Stephen King's books because I loved the horror aspect, because it allowed me to process my own terror and fear that I was going through in my own life in a safe space. So we get to have and work through the trauma in a very contained, whether it's predictable or not. We know nothing, no harm's going to come from us by opening a book, right? And so I loved bleeding together this concept of trauma healing with the Gothic idea of touching on these heavier topics. So I have a long trigger warning list. And my main character is a psychiatrist with PTSD. So we do really, there's a mental health rep in there. We dive into kind of her own trauma as she goes from being a human and gets turned into vampire. So really, it was about kind of melding my two worlds together, my two professions together, my two loves together. And I had a blast doing it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And Rachel, I know you haven't had a chance to read both of hers, but I think you would love it. Rachel is a therapist and
Hmm.
she's very similar. So yeah, my questions typically lean a little bit emotional, and a little bit psychological, if you will. So you mentioned like drawing inspiration from real world things. What character do you relate to the most? Like, is there a character that was inspired by you and your own story?
Yeah, I would say Fenice, my main character, because I've been diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I got diagnosed when I was 14. And so I worked through my own trauma. So as you're reading the book and you're kind of feeling, I've had people tell me that my writing's graphic, but I like to call it visceral because when we deal with trauma, it really taps into our five senses. So what we hear, taste, smell. So we lose the ability to have chronological thinking whenever we've been traumatized. It's more about what we feel, what we smell, what we taste, that kind of thing. And so as I'm writing from what it actually feels like to be going through a trauma and then recovering from a traumatic experience because I've lived it myself and I've also helped a lot of other people recover from those aspects of trauma. So I would say I identify with Fenice a lot in my book.
Wow, that's new information. I didn't realize the timeline versus emotional aspect that you just mentioned, and that kind of light bulb just went on. Basically, I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense for a lot of different
Yeah.
people. Um,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
congratulations, Maddie. You made it through our 5 minutes. That went by so quickly. I don't
Thank
even
you.
feel like it was 5 minutes. Um, so we will put the 5 minutes on our social channels. The entire episode will go on our YouTube and Spotify channels. So we're just gonna keep chatting away.
Okay.
And I really want to give the floor to Rachel because she is a therapist. And I know that she's probably got so many questions right now, so I'm gonna put her on the spot and make her ask something really profound.
Funny, I also
Bring
have a
it.
literature degree, so I'm like, oh wow,
Yes. We're
because
like besties.
we
Let's do
are, and I
That's
love
this.
why I'm like,
Buffy. Like,
Rachel,
oh
hit us with
man.
something amazing. Come on, let's go.
Well, now I'm on the like, yeah, now I don't know. You're putting pressure on me. Um, so I obviously, really appreciate accurate representation in novels when we talk about mental health and especially about trauma because we see so many, and not to knock anybody because I love that anybody can heal and we can all go through these different scenarios and going through, and nobody heals the same. So there are a lot of books that I've read where it's almost like somebody has this traumatic experience and then there's a magic cure and they're done and they're fixed, right?
Yeah.
So which is fine,
That that
great.
doesn't happen in my books, love.
Right. Right. So that was my question is like how do they heal through your books? What does yours look like?
So I actually am using a lot of real techniques that I've used with myself and then also with my clients and my patients that I've worked with. Just, I mean, I own my own medical practice with my husband, who's a medical doctor. And, you know, trauma is a long road, and you're very correct. Not everybody does it the same way. One of the things that the reason why I have a long list of trauma recovery is I'm also a sexual assault survivor. And so there is sexual assault on page with my main character. And so that's in there. Um, and I did that on purpose because I feel like for us, silence is our biggest enemy when we don't talk about it. It is the biggest it's the biggest harm that we can cause anybody, right? And so when we don't say, when we're too sensitive to say, yeah, this happened and this is how we recover from it, we're doing a disservice to everybody out there. There have been so many men and women who have suffered from sexual assault that I've worked with, and it's their silence and then the stories that they tell themselves and how they victim shame themselves in their head that have caused them way more damage than the actual event because they've been doing that for years. And so for me, as I decided to write, I was like, yeah, it's kind of hard to write on page sexual assault. But at the same time, our silence is more damaging. And so as I'm going through that and working through that, you actually get to see it happens at the end of book one. Book two is a parallel story, and I'm actually about done. I have one chapter left to write in book three, by the way. But you actually get to see in book three how there's this give and take and this push and this pull between my two soulmates about her recovering through sexual assault and her getting pushed into a flashback and how it impacts their relationship and how he has to be patient with her and how he's loving and he wants to fix it, but he can't. And there's all these other things because that's life. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
we really go through. And even though we want to be intimate with our partners afterwards, it's not like, oh, well, you're safe, right? I know you and I know that you're safe. That's not what our brain does. Our brain's like, nope,
Yeah,
it's
and I
all
feel like
dangerous.
that's true of any type of trauma too, like whether
It is.
it's emotional or physical or sexual. e- Even though you feel you know that you're safe with someone, it's hard to actually be safe with that person, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
And that's because of our brain. And
yeah.
so and that's what I do a lot with my clients. I do a lot, and I don't know, Rachel, how much you work on it, but I focus a lot on neuroplasticity and the rewiring of the limbic system and trying to override the amygdala so that we can come out of an amygdala hijack. And I try to get patients to realize like what's happening when they're being triggered and what's causing the trigger, what's setting the trigger off so that we can, get a pause when the trigger is happening so we can start working on rewiring the brain. Because that's what I had to do to overcome my own CPTSD was realizing that this is the trigger and then how to convince my brain that, yes, I actually am safe. And there's a lot of work that's involved in that, right? But it takes with right. You have to realize, you have to have self-actualization that this is what's happening. Because your brain will just override because your brain's designed to keep you safe. And so
Yeah.
I've had that kind of tango going on in my third book. And yes, it's fantasy, and yes, there's magic, and there's all these other things. And so actually with the magical system, it's made it worse. In a lot of ways, and not better per se, because one of the people who tortures her in the first book actually has the ability to leave a magical signature behind and re-traumatize her, even though he's not around her, right? So, and that's kind of symbolic of what happens to us when we get
Yeah.
re-traumatized, right? So I've used these magical systems to kind of explain what's happening to us as we're trying to overcome trauma, and it's been a lot of fun. But I will just have to say, like, one of the things I've really enjoyed is I've had the honor of being at some book conferences and having readers come up to me just they've made me cry, telling me that they've taken my book to their psychiatrist or their therapist and just said that like for the first time they really understood their PTSD. They really understood why they were feeling the way they were feeling just from reading Mortal End, and going through Phineas's experience because they were never able to explain with their therapist what they were living through. But because I wrote it the way that I wrote it, um, a light bulb went off for them. And like, I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. Oh look, that
Zoom.
was
I
fantastic.
love
I don't know how I did it, but
it's
yes,
the
it was a
Zoom
scent.
reactions. Like if you
I
do
know,
this long enough,
right?
it'll, I don't know.
I don't know. I gotta sit on my hands, guys.
That's
So
amazing.
but it was perfect timing. Like it's just yes, it's a celebration that I was able to give that gift. There one of the traumas that my book starts off with that I always try to warn people with is stillbirth and child loss and the grief around that because again, our medical practice really focuses on hormone replacement. So we deal a lot with infertility and miscarriages and child loss because of hormones being imbalanced. And I've worked a lot with child loss and grief. My own husband has lost a child, and I've helped him through that grief process. And it's one of those grievings that people don't talk about. And my villain, she's a villain because of her child loss, and it just broke her. And that is one of those griefs that we're too silent about, I think, in our world. And I created a villain that we can be compassionate for, but she's irredeemable.
Yeah.
And just wait, Tanya, till you get to book three. She's irredeemable.
I've definitely had some questions
It
and some
just it
thoughts.
just gets it just gets worse. It just gets worse. So but it's just yeah, so I don't know, Rachel, if that really answers your question. Like I try to like marry this magic system that I'm creating around my 25 years of experience of walking my own trauma recovery path and then what I've worked what I do with patients, right? So and what is that? If trauma recovery was magical, what would it look like?
Yeah, and
And
I
that
think
is,
you've done
yeah,
like a perfect job weaving those together. I also really like that the magic has added another element that she has to overcome as part of like the trauma. So I feel like
yeah.
you've done that justice, weaving the two and making it an obstacle. So, and something to help her out a little bit too.
Well, and with the cursed and fated, the concept around cursed and fated is really for me, it's indicative of the human journey, right? So we go through these trials and tribulations as we walk through our human experience, and the things that can be really painful are usually the things that we help us grow and evolve and become a better person if we allow it, right? So
Mhm.
while we're in it, it feels like a curse, right? So painful. And you're like, not again. I don't want to do this again. Oh my gosh, can it just stop? Right. But we're also kind of fated to walk that path so we can become the person we're supposed to be. So that's really the concept around the cursed and fated, right? Like that's why that's the series.
Yeah, wow. That was so eloquently stated and such a good, just all-encompassing little, not even blurb, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like a
Like an elevator
summary.
pitch.
Yeah,
Yeah, like a
yeah,
little
that was
elevator
perfect.
pitch.
I love that. Well, Maddie, this is about the time where we open the floor to you to let you make any announcements to your readers or listeners, and I'm gonna steal the thunder for a moment because I
Okay.
noticed the other day that you are going to the Tennessee Tea and Tropes event in
Mhm.
2026. I will be
Yeah.
there with my business partner, Kim. So I can't wait to meet you, but if you have any other events or announcements that you would like to make, now is the time.
Yeah, so that's the August 31st and
Yep.
July 1st. Yes. Okay, so we'll be
Yep.
in Nashville, Tennessee. I will then also be at Rebels and Realms. Did I say it right? Rebels and Realms or Realm? I think it's Rebels and Realms. And that will be in Arkansas. And that is just 2 weeks before that. I don't have the
Oh.
dates right off the everything's on my website. So my website's really easy. It's maddieroseandry.com. And so if you go to my events tabs, there's even a button for you to click and buy tickets. I'll be doing signings at both of those events. Um, I'm very excited to be at both of those. Laura, my PA, and I are working on special editions. I've been nerding out with a new artist. She's like, I can't wait, I can't wait. So she's helping me with that. I've got a few other things that are going to be coming out. I don't know if it's okay to go ahead and announce it, but I'm looking at doing a special edition PR of book one and book two together,
Oh, like a
like a just a one-time special release kind of thing before
very
book three comes out. So it will be a hardback. I'm doing it with Nerd Fam. So
okay.
we will be doing like a PR coming out soon. I'll be working with them in November to organize, create, design, because they are a parallel novel. I will
Yeah.
tell you, readers, a lot of people have asked me about tandem reads. As the author, I would highly recommend that you read them book one and book two. They do overlap. You can tandem read them. I did this on purpose because Emil comes across a certain way in book one for a reason. And then
Yeah.
when you get into Emil's head, oh, he's a
Yeah.
different man.
Yeah.
And
I
I
stand
just,
by reading them separately as well.
yeah, because like I think The reason I do that is because the perception that we get of people, right? Like we go out in the world and we have a perception that we think we know a person. And I did this on purpose because we walk in the world and we think that we know a person based on their actions, but we really don't know what's going on under the surface. And so that's the reason why Emil comes off the way that he does in book one. But then when we get inside of Emil's head, you're like, oh, holy smokes, what just happened?
Yeah.
And so it was a lot of fun getting to give somebody a perception of who this person is and then actually getting to get in his head. And you're like, what?
Yep.
So just so people know, like for me, like readers will find that you might think you know what's happening, but there's a really good chance I'm playing with you.
Yeah. Well, we're
So
excited to see.
I'm, I'm trying to think. And book three will be coming out in March of 2026.
Yeah. You've got quite the
So
lineup upcoming.
I do. And I will go ahead and let the cat out of the bag because if you've subscribed to my newsletter, which you can do through my website as well, and just for you guys, for readers to know, I let a lot of secrets out in my newsletters. So if you're not subscribed to my Enigmas Unraveled, which it kind of says the name, it says it in the name, I let a lot of secrets slide in my newsletters that I don't let anywhere else. And so if you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe. You actually get to know a lot more about me personally, about my writer's journey and stuff like that. But right now, tentatively, the date for book three is March 3rd of 2026. And the series is set up for 7 books. So
Wow.
yeah.
7. That's amazing.
Yeah,
For
and
some reason, I
they're
thought it was 5. I don't know. So I was just like, wait a minute. But yeah,
yeah, they're
amazing.
and Tanya, they're outlined on my wall.
I really need you to walk us through this one day. I want to see your chalkboard. So, for everyone listening, before we started recording the episode, Maddie did tell us that she has chalkboard walls that she
Mhm.
outlines on, like she physically writes on her walls. And I
I
would
do.
love to see just a shot of the walls once all of this is done. Obviously, we don't want any spoilers getting out there. But yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to just see what it looks like. It sounds amazing. Just like all that. Oh, I don't know. It just sounds phenomenal to see it.
Well, I love to foreshadow and when you're reading, even in my Instagram posts, there's eggs everywhere. The songs I pick have a purpose. They're in the images, there's usually hints. Um, I'm sneaky. I like it.
I love that. All right. Well, we are just about at time now. So we are going to wrap up, but thank you so much, Maddie, and we would love to have
Thank
you
you.
on again, maybe closer to book three's release. And yeah, we'll
I
set
love
that
that.
up. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So, well, have a good day.
Yeah, you too.